Hi, I'm Rebecca from TechCentral inside the Hart Memorial Library of the Osceola Library System, and welcome to Tech Tips from TechCentral.
In this video, we're going to go more in depth when talking about the elements of exposure, those being aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. The aperture is the opening in the lens through which light passes to enter the camera. As I said in the previous video, think about how our pupils expand in response to light. This affects the depth of field and is measured in f-stops. The smaller the f-stop, the smaller the depth of field is, but the more light is let in through the lens. The larger the f-stop, the more of the photo is in focus, but the less light is let in because the aperture itself is smaller. For example, if you were shooting a portrait, you would use a smaller f-stop to isolate the subject from the background, create an effect called bokeh. If you were shooting a landscape, you might want a larger f-stop to have more of the scenery in focus. Here is an example of using different f-stops. You can see on the left with the largest f-stop number, the aperture itself is very small, but all of the measuring tape is in focus. As the number decreases to the right, the aperture gets bigger and we begin to lose focus in areas. Of course, to make up for the different levels of light being allowed in through the aperture, we would have to adjust the other elements of exposure to compensate, like the shutter speed. Shutter speed is the length of time the camera shutter is open, exposing light onto the camera sensor. The longer the shutter speed, the more light gathered by a camera sensor. It is measured in fractions of a second when under 1 second. Shutter speed also affects the sharpness of the image, with the potential to either freeze the motion of a subject with a faster shutter speed or blur it creatively to show a slower shutter speed. You can see here that a faster shutter speed freezes the Ferris wheel, while the slower shutter speed makes the lights on the Ferris wheel drag around the frame, conveying motion. Finally, there is ISO, or International Organization for Standardization. This is a camera setting that will brighten or darken a photo, so in a way it does affect exposure, but it comes at a cost. ISO is the camera's sensitivity to light, but it affects the overall graininess of an image. In this way, it helps with the flexibility for the aperture and shutter speed, so it is a part of the exposure triangle, which we'll be going over in the next video. The higher the ISO number, the more sensitive the camera is to light, so you can have a faster shutter speed, but the more grain the final image will have. You can see here the examples of the two extremes of ISO. You may find that your camera can go up to a really high number here, over 3,200 these days, but honestly it would be so grainy that I'm not sure it would even be worth it. Sticking to as low as you can get away with is a good idea with ISO, as long as you can appropriately adjust the other elements of exposure to compensate for a balanced image when possible.